Tonight, before you go to sleep, you'll probably do something without even thinking about it. You might pull a blanket over your shoulders, adjust the temperature in your room, turn off the lights, maybe glance at your phone one last time before closing your eyes. And then, within minutes, you drift into sleep. It feels so normal that you rarely stop to ask a simple question. What actually keeps you alive while you sleep? Now imagine that everything protecting you suddenly disappears. No heated house, no insulated walls, no thick mattress, no electric blanket, no central heating, not even a window separating you from the freezing night outside. Instead, you find yourself standing in the middle of the Ice Age. The wind cuts across an endless frozen landscape. Snow drifts through the darkness. The temperature is far below freezing, and in just a few hours you will need to do something surprisingly dangerous. You need to fall asleep. Because during the Ice Age, sleep was not a time of safety. It was often the most vulnerable part of the day. When you were awake, you could move, you could gather wood, you could tend a fire, you could hunt, walk, and keep your body warm. But once you closed your eyes, everything changed. Your body temperature began to drop, your awareness disappeared, and the cold never stopped working. Yet somehow, for tens of thousands of years, your ancestors survived nights that would seem impossible to most people today. Night after night, winter after winter, generation after generation. They woke up the next morning, they raised children, they built communities, and eventually they became you. So how did they do it? How did prehistoric humans sleep in a world of ice without freezing to death before sunrise? The answer is far more fascinating than simply they had fires, because hidden behind every successful night of sleep was a collection of ingenious survival stratagems so effective that traces of them still exist in your life today. And the first surprise is that many of the things you imagine about Ice Age people may be completely wrong. The image most people carry in their minds is surprisingly simple. If you asked someone where Ice Age humans slept, they would probably answer immediately. In caves. It seems obvious. After all, movies, illustrations, and even school textbooks have spent decades showing prehistoric people huddled around fires deep inside dark caverns. But the real story is far more interesting, and in some ways, far more impressive. Because caves were never the universal solution many people imagine. In fact, for most prehistoric humans, finding a cave was often a luxury. Think about it for a moment. A cave cannot be built, it cannot be moved, and there are only so many of them. Even today, vast regions of the world contain very few natural caves suitable for long-term shelter. Yet Ice Age humans spread across enormous territories stretching from Western Europe to the frozen plains of Siberia. Millions of square miles of land. Far more people than available caves. So where did everyone else sleep? The answer surprised archaeologists when evidence began emerging from ancient campsites scattered across Eurasia. Again and again, researchers discovered traces of human settlements far away from caves, not temporary stops, not emergency shelters, actual living spaces. Places where families cooked, worked, raised children, and spent long periods of time. Some were built from wood, others used animal hides. Some were partially dug into the ground, and a few of the most remarkable structures were built using the bones of massive Ice Age animals. This immediately changes the picture. Your ancestors were not simply hiding from the environment. They were engineering solutions to survive it. And that distinction matters, because hiding from the cold only works if shelter already exists. Creating warmth where none exists is something entirely different. But there is another common misconception. Many people imagine that the greatest danger of an Ice Age night was being attacked by predators. Certainly, wolves, cave lions, and other large animals could be dangerous. But for a healthy adult human, the cold itself was often the more immediate threat. A predator might never find you. The freezing air always would. Every night, your body faced a challenge that modern people rarely experience. The moment you fall asleep, your internal temperature naturally begins to decrease. Even today, this happens to you. Your metabolism slows, your muscles relax, your body conserves energy. In a heated bedroom, you barely notice. Suits. In an Ice Age winter, that same process could become deadly. This means that survival was never just about finding a place to sleep. It was about finding a way to stay warm for 8 uninterrupted hours while your body became less capable of protecting itself. And that raises an even bigger question. If caves were not enough, and if a simple fire could not solve every problem, what was the greatest challenge your ancestors had to overcome before they could safely close their eyes at night? The answer begins with something surprisingly ordinary: heat. Or more accurately, the constant struggle to stop losing it. Heat. It sounds almost too simple. After all, when you feel cold today, the solution is obvious. You turn on a heater, put on another layer, close a window, the problem disappears in seconds. But now imagine none of those options exist. You are standing on an Ice Age plain as the sun sinks below the horizon. The temperature is falling rapidly. A cold wind is sweeping across open ground, and your body has only one source of warmth: itself. That is the challenge your ancestors faced every single night: not finding heat, creating enough of it, and more importantly, keeping it from escaping. Because survival in the Ice Age was not a battle against cold, it was a battle against heat loss. This is something modern people rarely think about. Your body is constantly producing warmth, even while sitting still, even while sleeping. The human body is essentially a biological furnace. Food becomes energy, energy becomes heat, and that heat keeps your organs functioning. The problem is that heat never wants to stay where it is. It constantly escapes into the surrounding environment, especially when that environment is freezing. Imagine filling a bathtub with hot water, then removing the plug. No matter how much water you add, the level continues to drop. The human body works in a surprisingly similar way. If heat leaves faster than it can be replaced, body temperature begins to fall, and once it falls too far, survival becomes increasingly difficult. The danger was especially severe during sleep. When you are awake, you move, you gather wood, you repair shelter, you walk, you work. All of these activities generate heat, but sleep changes everything. Your muscles relax, your metabolism slows, your core temperature naturally decreases. In a modern bedroom, this is perfectly normal. In an Ice Age winter, it could become a serious problem. And here is what makes the situation even more challenging. The cold air was only one enemy. The ground itself was often worse. Imagine lying directly on frozen earth. The moment your body touches it, heat begins flowing away from you, hour after hour, without stopping. Even a small amount of insulation could mean the difference between comfort and danger. This is why archaeologists often pay close attention to something that seems surprisingly unimportant: ancient bedding. At first glance, a layer of grass or animal fur might not seem revolutionary. But in the Ice Age, it was, because the first goal was not warming the body. It was preventing warmth from escaping. And that realization changed everything. Suddenly, prehistoric humans were no longer looking for shelter alone. They were looking for ways to trap heat, to hold it, to preserve it through the longest hours of the night. Yet even the best bedding could only do so much. A thick layer of grass might protect you from the frozen ground, but it could not solve another problem. The air around you was still stealing warmth every minute. And that forced your ancestors to discover a solution so effective that humans still use versions of it today. Not in caves, not in houses, but directly on their own bodies. The next breakthrough was something you put on every single day without giving it a second thought. That breakthrough was clothing. But not clothing as you know it today. No synthetic fibers, no waterproof jackets, no thermal layers designed in laboratories. Instead, imagine beside the carcass of a recently hunted animal. Most people think prehistoric hunters were interested mainly in meat, and certainly food was critical. But during the Ice Age, another resource could be just as valuable: the skin. Because hidden inside every animal hide was something incredibly powerful: a layer of trapped air. And air, surprisingly, is one of the best insulators in nature. The thick fur of a reindeer, the dense coat of a bison, the woolly covering of Ice Age mammals, all of it served the same purpose: not creating heat, holding on to it. Your ancestors eventually learned one of the most important lessons in human history. If animals could survive brutal winters by wearing fur, humans could borrow the same strategy. And that changed everything. A person wrapped in properly prepared hides could retain far more body heat than someone exposed directly to the air. Suddenly, survival was no longer entirely dependent on the environment. You could carry part of your protection with you. But that was only the beginning, because even the warmest clothing has limits. A freezing night lasts many hours, and eventually another challenge appears. What happens when your body is no longer producing enough heat on its own? The answer was fire, yet not in the way most people imagine. Movies often show giant bonfires roaring in the middle of a camp. The reality was probably much more sophisticated. A huge fire consumes enormous amounts of fuel, and fuel was not always easy to find, especially in regions where trees were scarce. Instead, many Ice Age communities appear to have managed fire carefully, protecting embers, maintaining steady flames, ensuring warmth lasted through the entire night, because a fire that burns brightly for 1 hour is less useful than one that survives until dawn. Think about what that means. Before going to sleep, someone had to make sure enough fuel remained. Someone had to watch conditions. Someone had to think ahead. A sleeping group depended on decisions made hours earlier. In many ways, staying warm began long before bedtime. But even fire had a weakness. A fire warms one side of your body, the side facing the flames. The other side continues losing heat to the surrounding air. And this led to another surprisingly effective solution: people, lots of people. Today, privacy is often considered a necessity. Many people prefer sleeping alone, having their own room, their own bed, their own personal space. For Ice Age humans, that idea would have seemed strange. because every person sleeping nearby was another source of warmth. Every adult generated body heat. Every child generated body heat. Every sleeping family member contributed to a shared reservoir of warmth. Imagine entering a shelter at night. Children positioned safely near the center, adults surrounding them, animal hides covering the group, heat accumulating beneath layers of fur and skin. What appears crowded to modern eyes may actually have been one of the most efficient heating systems available. And here is the remarkable part. This strategy costs nothing. No extra fuel, no additional materials, just cooperation. The same social bonds that helped humans hunt, gather food, and raise children also helped them survive freezing nights. But there was still another challenge. Even warm clothing, fire, and shared body heat could fail if the shelter itself was poorly designed. A strong wind could strip away warmth faster than the body could replace it. A poorly positioned entrance could funnel cold air directly inside. A gap in a hide-covered wall could transform a comfortable shelter into a freezing trap. And this is where Ice Age humans revealed something many people underestimate. They were not simply survivors. They were skilled engineers of warmth. Some shelters were partially dug into the ground where temperatures remained more stable. Others used layers of hides to block wind. Some communities even arranged sleeping spaces to maximize heat retention and minimize exposure. Every design choice mattered. Every improvement increased the chances of waking up the next morning. And this is what makes the story so fascinating. There was never one magic solution. No single invention saved your ancestors from the cold. Instead, survival came from combining many small advantages: fur, fire, bedding, shelter, shared body heat, careful planning. Individually, each helped a little. Together, they created something powerful enough to defeat an Ice Age night. But perhaps the most surprising discovery is that many of those ancient solutions never disappeared. In fact, you are probably using versions of them right now without even realizing it. Take a look around your home tonight. Your bed is elevated above the floor. Your walls trap heat. Your roof blocks wind and rain. Your blankets create layers of insulation. Your winter jacket is designed to hold warm air close to your body. Your heating system keeps temperatures stable throughout the night. At first glance, these inventions seem completely modern, the products of engineers, architects, and technology. But if you trace their purpose back far enough, you arrive at a surprising conclusion. Most of them are solving exactly the same problems your ancestors faced during the Ice Age. The materials have changed, the science has improved, the comfort level has increased dramatically, but the challenge remains almost identical. How do you keep precious heat from escaping? Think about your mattress. Today it contains springs, foam, memory materials, and carefully designed support systems. Yet its basic function mirrors something prehistoric humans understood thousands of generations ago. You should not sleep directly on cold ground. The principle is the same, only the technology evolved. The same is true for blankets. When you pull a comforter over yourself at night, you are creating a pocket of warm air around your body. That is exactly what animal hides once accomplished. Different materials, same strategy. Even modern winter clothing follows a remarkably ancient formula. Your insulated jacket works because it traps air. A fur-lined coat works because it traps air. A wool sweater works because it traps air. The details vary, the physics do not, and perhaps nowhere is the connection more obvious than in our homes. Today, architects spend enormous effort designing energy-efficient buildings, double-pane windows, insulated walls, weatherproof doors, sealed roofs. The goal is familiar: keep warmth inside, keep cold outside. In a sense, every modern house is part of a design challenge that began long before written history. But the connection goes even deeper, because some of the most important Ice Age survival tools were not physical objects at all. They were social behaviors. Think about how rarely humans truly live alone. Families share homes. Communities help each other during emergencies. Neighbors assist one another during storms. People check on elderly relatives during extreme weather. When conditions become dangerous, humans naturally move closer together. That instinct did not appear recently. It may have helped keep entire groups alive through some of the harshest climates our species has ever experienced. The same cooperation that once protected a sleeping family around a fire still appears today in different forms, not because we consciously remember the Ice Age, but because those behaviors became part of who we are. And perhaps that is the most fascinating realization of all. When you zip up a jacket, pull a blanket over your shoulders, close your front door against a winter wind, or gather with family on a cold night, you are not just using modern conveniences. You are participating in solutions refined over tens of thousands of years. Solutions passed from one generation to the next, long before cities, long before electricity, long before history books. Yet for all their ingenuity, there was one final truth your ancestors could never escape. No shelter was perfect, no fire burned forever. No winter was guaranteed to be survivable. And that reality reveals something profound about the people who came before you. That reality is easy to forget when looking backward through history. When we talk about prehistoric humans, it is tempting to focus only on the survivors. After all, every person alive today descends from individuals who successfully endured those frozen nights. But survival was never guaranteed. Every winter carried uncertainty. Every storm introduced new risks. Every night demanded preparation, cooperation, and a little bit of luck. And yet, despite all of those challenges, something extraordinary happened. Human beings did not merely survive this ice age, they adapted to it, they learned from it. They became stronger because of it. Think about what that really means. Your ancestors faced conditions that most modern people would consider unimaginable. No weather forecast, no emergency services, no insulated vehicles, no grocery stores stocked with food. And still, they found ways to wake up the next morning. Not once, not twice, but for thousands of generations. The remarkable lesson hidden inside this story is that human survival has never depended on being the strongest animal. Compared to mammoths, humans were small. Compared to cave bears, humans were physically weaker. Compared to wolves, humans were slower. Yet humans possessed something different: the ability to solve problems together, the ability to share knowledge, the ability to learn from previous generations. Every successful shelter, every improved hide, every better sleeping arrangement, every discovery about fire, all of it could be passed on. One generation learned a lesson. The next generation started where the previous one left off. Over time, those small improvements accumulated into something incredibly powerful: culture. Knowledge became a survival tool, perhaps the most important survival tool ever created. And in many ways, that process is still happening today. You inherit technologies you did not invent, knowledge you did not discover, solutions created by people who lived long before you were born. Just as Ice Age children inherited survival strategies from their parents, you inherit centuries of accumulated knowledge from countless generations. The chain never truly ended. It simply became larger, more complex, more advanced. So the next time you climb into a warm bed on a cold night, consider what that comfort really represents. It is not just a mattress, not just a blanket, not just a heated room. It is the final chapter of a story that began tens of thousands of years ago. A story written by people who slept beneath animal hides, who protected glowing embers through the darkness, who huddled together against the cold, who refused to disappear even when the world around them seemed determined to freeze. You are here because they succeeded. Every comfortable night you experience today rests upon countless uncomfortable nights endured by those who came before you. And perhaps that is the most fascinating answer of all. Humans did not survive the Ice Age because they were immune to the cold. They survived because they learned, adapted, cooperated, and never stopped improving the tools that kept them alive. The warmth surrounding you tonight is not merely a modern convenience. It is an inheritance, a gift passed forward through thousands of generations of resilience. If you enjoyed this journey into the lives of your ancient ancestors, be sure to subscribe to Duke Psychology and join us for more fascinating stories about human evolution, survival, and the incredible path that led to the world you live in today. Because the next ordinary thing you take for granted may also have a story that began thousands of years ago. Before you leave, take a moment to think about this. Tonight, you will probably fall asleep in a warm bed without giving it a second thought. Yet that simple comfort is the result of tens of thousands of years of human survival, adaptation, and ingenuity. Every blanket, every wall, every shelter, and every source of warmth carries a story that began long before recorded history. And those stories are far more fascinating than most people realize. If you enjoy exploring the hidden lives of our ancestors, the mysteries of human evolution, and the incredible challenges that shaped the world we live in today, make sure to subscribe to Duck Psychology. Here, we travel back through time to uncover what it truly felt like to be human in some of the most extraordinary moments of our species' journey. And if this video made you see something ordinary in a completely new way, let us know in the comments. What modern comfort would you miss the most if you suddenly found yourself living in the Ice Age? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Duck Psychology, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next journey into the deep past. Until next time, sleep warm and remember that countless generations made that comfort possible.